They seem to be controlling everything in this country about banning things, banning sweet and chocolate things and fatty foods. But anyway, you're going to play this video. We'll see what you guys go think about it.
Call it the Great British Boot Camp. The government, like governments before it, wants us to shed the pounds. But this time it's personal. Boris Johnson blames his brush with death on his weight. He's lost a stone since and is now an unlikely evangelist for government intervention in people's lives and diets. The first wave of COVID showed the most severely obese were at a 90% higher risk of death. The coaches running this residential course believe lockdown's been a wake-up call for many.
Excellent, good, put it high. They're saying I've been able to assess myself and to be able to reflect, and they found themselves becoming more of who they are. And so if they were drinkers, they became more of a drinker. If they were an eater, they became more of an eater.
Do you think there's a fear factor around COVID that's going to make a great motivator in terms of losing weight?
Absolutely, without a doubt. They just want to be able to arm themselves and guard themselves against any potential, do what they can themselves to be able to almost put up this invisible barrier. And the fear has definitely added to that for sure.
Claire and Natalie say the threat of coronavirus does focus the mind.
It is concerning because I think both of us would admit that we could lose a few pounds. So if that's going to help me fight anything, absolutely I'll do it, because you can't change your health. You get one health, and if you lose that, that's it, done. So you've got to do what you can.
We spent a period of time eating a lot of junk food or being quite sedentary, and we thought we needed a boost to get us back into the swing of things. Put on a few pounds since being in lockdown, so this is the ideal thing to give us a little jump start.
The government would like everyone who's overweight to lose 5 pounds and says it's taking bold action to help us. TV adverts for junk food will be banned before 9 p.m. Sweets, chocolate and crisps will be removed from the checkout. Calories will be listed on menus in large restaurants, and people will be helped by healthy weight coaches. But some argue it's easier to make healthy choices when you don't have to worry about the cost of food.
Up to 10% of families are currently living with food insecurity in the UK, and that to follow current government guidance on healthy food would take around 75% of household income in the most deprived, people living in the most deprived areas.
But the government insists buy one get one free deals on unhealthy foods must end.
What the offers result in happening is people buying food that they didn't intend to buy, often food that they didn't need, spending more, and there's more wastage as a result. So, as I said, what we want to do is help people make the healthier choices.
3, 2, 1, let's go.
These are not new ideas, but ministers believe the timing is right, that the shock of coronavirus could be all the motivation we need to keep the weight off.
Well, earlier I spoke to the chef, Jamie Oliver, who for years has been an outspoken campaigner for more government action to promote healthy eating. And I started by asking him if the Prime Minister's announcement was a significant moment in the fight against obesity.
I think possibly this could be a pivotal moment, yes. In an awful storm, of course, but I think, for myself and other campaigners that have been really trying hard to get some kind of centering of a campaign to improve child health in this country for many years, like decades, today feels like a bit of a moment.
Theoretically, you've got the government on your side, but they've never talked about it before until this. So
sometimes, people don't want to change until the pain of not changing is worse than change itself, right? And I know that's a famous line, but it's a very true line. I think the cost of ill health in society, absenteeism, productivity, child health is an economic conversation. If you speak to anyone who deals in economics, they will tell you that having a fitter, healthier, more agile Britain is absolutely more profitable and where we want to get as this lovely little island that we live in. So I think they might have joined some dots. I think they may have been forced to in these terribly tough times. I think we have to presume that Boris's relationship with COVID-19 himself. I think he was very ill, and having just had a beautiful baby may have put him in a frame of mind, I would hope, I would think, it looks like. So yes, what we need is a platform to kind of really do great work.
But don't you also need actual intervention? Tax. Tax surely is a pivotal. If you tax totally unacceptable sweet foods for children, I mean, it sounds cruel, but is that part of the answer?
I think tax, of course, can be efficient. It can also be a blow. So on one hand, you might want to go, well, tax it, like we have cigarettes, for instance. But also you might want to subsidise it. You know, we have, the biggest problem for me is how do we make healthier foods more affordable, especially to the most vulnerable communities. So I think tax is very effective, but you've got to be really careful with it. You've got to take the public with you to a degree. And it might not always be tax that's the answer.
But are healthier foods inevitably more expensive?
I think so. And at the moment, if you care about food, and if it is healthier for you, and possibly even to the planet to be created in the first place, by default it ends up being more expensive. So I personally think it would be nice to see, businesses that clearly sell a lot of unhealthy foods having to work a bit harder than ones trying to do more real stuff on site.
Is it science or chance that the countries that have suffered worse from the virus are countries with very overweight populations?
Well, it seems to be that there is genetic aspects to it, and a lot of those genetics are geographical as well. I think there's lots of factors. I think there's lots of things being worked out at the moment. I think people seem to be getting iller if they have diet-related disease, and it's amplified by ethnic background, and that by default becomes geographical, because then it starts going to the poorer communities, and that is geographical. So we know, even going back to today's announcement, we know that if you're from a poorer community, that you're much more advertised to. You're surrounded by many, many more bad choices. So I think we have a job as a society to acknowledge that. Hopefully, what we have the potential of here in the UK is one of the best child health strategies in the world. Fingers crossed.
Jamie Oliver, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.
Why has it taken a pandemic for this action today to be taken?
I think COVID has just put what we've always known into the spotlight. So obesity increases the risk of type 2 diabetes, of many cancers, and cardiovascular disease, as well as causing social issues associated with stigma, for example, less likely to get through a job interview. But COVID has put it into stark relief because it's so much in people's faces. Because in the ICU units, it's very apparent that people living with obesity are being overrepresented in those units.
Yeah.
There are more there than we'd expect to see. And as Jamie Oliver pointed out, the Prime Minister has been one of them.
But given that a lot of these proposals were in a paper in 2018, has central government been sluggish in its response?
Well, I want to treat this as glass half full, so I'm really pleased to see the package of actions we've got here. I mean, it will put the UK into the leading position in terms of obesity actions around the world, and we are heavy, but there are heavier countries as well.
But would you like to see it go further, given that the levy on sugary drinks has been such a success, the amount of sugar in drinks has been cut? Should that be extended to unhealthy foods as well, that levy?
Well, I'm pleased to see government saying that it will consider other actions. Public Health England monitors the voluntary reformulation programme. We'll produce more data on that later this year. And we will be saying if we feel more actions are needed, because if, for example, we don't see changes in chocolates and so on, we will be the first to talk about additional actions.
And that could be, you'd like that to be considered as a matter of urgency if you recommend that.
Yes, but we have been putting our evidence into policy making, PHE produced very carefully have described the evidence on COVID, and we've described many things over the years, and we will continue to very closely monitor the data. The reality is that most countries have only done sugar taxes, so it's on drinks, so it's quite difficult to see how it would work in other products, but actually we can see there may well be scope for action.
And nutritionally speaking, are you at all concerned about the Eat Out to Help Out offer, 50% off restaurant foods to come out of the pandemic? So that includes fast food outlets.
We would really encourage people to, when they're eating out to help out, to be choosing healthier options. If you go into some leading fast food restaurants, actually they have quite good calorie information on their notice boards. Have a look and go for the products that are smaller. So go smaller, not larger. And also, really important, we tend to graze a lot as a nation. Really encourage people not to treat that fast food as a snack product. It's not a snack product, it's a meal, and we should treat it as a meal, not as a little extra treatette.
Now, of course, the government, as you rightly point out, has been spurred into action on this by the coronavirus crisis. Given the well-publicised failings on testing, tracing and PPE, do you defend Public Health England's response to the pandemic?
Well, I'm the chief nutritionist, so I'm not in charge of any of those things, but I'm very proud to work in PHE, but those are not areas I'm expert in.
But organisationally, do you feel you've been dumped on by central government?
Again, that's not anything I can comment. I can say clearly on the obesity agenda, we've been very firmly at the table. Many colleagues have been working across government to support a wide range of things. I myself worked on PPE for 6 weeks. So we've been out there supporting everything government's been doing, and indeed our NHS. And of course, taking it back to obesity, this is why we need to address the obesity problem, because the NHS is all our business.
Wow, that was something different then, wasn't it? Hope you all enjoyed the video. Give it a like, give it a comment, share with your friends, and I shall catch you in the next video. Peace.